Hi, I'm Dr. Saira.
And I'm Texas Peck.
And this is the Expansion Now podcast.
All right. We're going to jump into some really cool stuff today.
We think it's cool.
Well,
hopefully you also think it's somewhat cool.
Yeah.
Cool. That really dates us, hey? I'm learning about all these weird slang.
What would be the new change? We're speaking about change today. So what word would we now use?
I'm not sure. Because apparently as soon as grown-ups say the words, they become uncool.
Oh, okay.
So there's
Cool.
all these words and gestures, but if we say them,
they're done.
they're done.
Ah, well.
So
All right. We'll endeavor to speak.
normal language that we understand.
Yes, and hopefully that you understand.
And if you're under 20, we apologize.
Yeah, we're trying our best. It occurred to me today that it's fall all of a sudden, even though, and so change happens.
All around us.
So I noticed yesterday I actually put pants on for the first time in a very long time. I've been wearing shorts.
Yes, he has been wearing something.
Yes, no, that's right. You can't tell that when you sit here. Right? It's like, wow. But yeah, I wear like that. That's something I look forward to every spring.
Yeah, Texas is so excited the day that he can wear shorts.
Yeah, and then it's all summer, and it was all of a sudden like, okay, it's time to put some pants back on here and get ready for fall. And then I had a T-shirt on this morning. I'm like, nope, I have to put the long sleeves on today. Mm-hmm. And it's little metaphors, and maybe that's not a life-changing thing, but if we resist that, it can be a problem, right?
Well, and I mean, if we think there's actually something called seasonal affective disorder, right? Where as the seasons change, their moods are very affected by the seasons changing. And it's to the point where it can be really debilitating for people, right? So it's not a nothing.
No, it's not a nothing. And in fact, if you look at cultures across the world, they vary a lot just depending on the temperature zone that they live in.
Yes. I've noticed this traveling to tropical places.
Yes.
Right? The vibe and the energy is different.
Because there's
Mediterranean places,
less survival.
Tropical. Yeah, it's less bracing against the cold. Just to keep it really simple.
I grew up in a very small town in northern BC called Fort Nelson, and we literally get 4 months of real winter, 6 months of winter.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah,
4 months of real winter.
Well, real winter is like when it's below minus 20 all the time, or down in minus 40, and you have a culture that develops there of this. So I shouldn't say this, but you notice a lot of people going, they're just kind of bitchy.
Because they're cold.
Because they're cold.
They're freezing.
So Monique and I have been together. It's my wife. We've been together a long time. And she used to work at a law firm. Mm-hmm. And it was 3 blocks from the bank.
Okay.
And you should have seen, like when it's minus 45, what she would have to put on just to get to the bank. Because she used to walk the deposits down, right? And she would have her vest and then a coat and then 2 scarves and like 2 peepholes out here with her glasses that fogged up. It was a whole thing. Now, if you didn't have to do that...
If you didn't have to be focused on survival...
Right. So if you wore shorts all year round and a T-shirt, and that's one last thing you have to think about.
But have you noticed one thing? One thing I've noticed.
What's that?
A lot of people in tropical places don't actually wear shorts and tank tops and things. They wear like jeans and T-shirts.
That's true because
they're acclimatized
to that, yeah. But clothes, for us, was a big deal. My dad was a trapper. We were outside all the time. There was like South Asian cultures talk a lot about mangoes.
Yes, we do.
It's a whole thing I've learned. There's a lot of dialogue around mangoes.
I love that you know that, Texas.
But we talked a lot about clothes.
Huh. Okay, can you explain?
Yeah, because they were our survival.
Okay.
So my mom...
So what are you talking about?
Well, what are the best socks?
The warmest socks.
Yeah, like what?
And the most functional.
This person would have that opinion. My mom would spend hundreds of hours knitting buffalo wool socks, and then a cashmere sock to go inside the other sock, and then what boot would you put over that? And then how do you keep the snow out of your boots without it was a lot.
So as you're talking, it makes me think of like traditional cultures, right? In any place around the world, there was kind of the traditional peoples and the traditional cultures, and people like where survival was all we were doing. We were trying to stay warm. We were trying to get food, the basics, and a lot of how you've grown up was that because you were so living in such a remote place, and really the land, like you had to kind of deal with it. So change in that context, like
you change. You're looking like when you live close to nature, you don't fight nature. You learn that really on. If you look out and you go, well, I really want to go fishing today.
But there's a storm.
But there's a storm coming. You go, I won't go fishing today because there's a storm coming.
Right.
right? Or
okay.
Right. So my dad would go, well, there's a
So there's a lot out of your control.
Yeah. So that you don't push into it, you flex with it. So maybe not going out means you don't have fish, but you're safe.
That's so fascinating as you're talking about it, because it makes me think about how in modern cultures we've really developed all of these strategies to actually fight nature, like air conditioning.
Right. So when I was in Mexico, there was no air conditioner in the house, but people took a nap in the afternoon.
That's how you cope with a hot.
Right. You're not trying to be outside shoveling asphalt or something, and when it's that hot, you work in the morning. Take a siesta, you go back to work after supper.
And even with air conditioning, so this summer was hot in where we live, and I noticed like that hot afternoon sun, and I wanted to kind of take a nap, but it's cool enough inside that I could still stay busy.
Yeah, right.
Right? So it's like we're disengaging from our natural environment and then pushing through in maybe ways that like other mammals don't, for sure.
Yeah, and
I mean, we're not just mammals.
No.
We know this, but there's an element of that, right?
I think, and so resistance can become a way of life, right? Resistance can become something that we take into our every waking hour. And what we're trying to talk about here at the Expansion Project is we're not hiding on top of a mountain to do our meditations. We're not talking about that. But if we remove the resistance, then we have another path forward.
And linking back to this idea of change, so one of our spiritual axioms in advanced consciousness therapy is change happens in the present moment.
Right.
Right? And however, we're not really, modern societies don't really equip us to handle change very well.
Right.
Right? Because it's like the brain likes predictability and things like this is going to happen and then that's going to happen. I've already learned everything I need to learn and now I just have to like rinse and repeat.
Right.
Which leads to a very dull existence. Right?
Yeah. Or a very reactive resistance, because even in that we can become, every fall I hate fall or whatever. Right. And so then it's like, okay.
So you have this pattern.
So like I mean, I've been guilty of this myself. In the spring, I would bitch about there not being the grass I wanted. Then you complain about the grass that you got that you have to cut. And then you complain about the leaves that fall in the grass that you have to get up. Right? And there's very little acceptance in that, So, but hopefully you've grown past that to be able to say, okay, so this is what is in this present moment. That's what nature does.
So allowing change to be, rather than something we have to fight against, something we can kind of lean into and flow with.
Right.
But it's
tricky
when we have those adaptations.
Yeah.
Right? So one of the adaptations we were talking about this morning is people-pleasing and compliance.
I don't know why we're talking about that, because it doesn't exist here at the Expansion Project at all.
Working through it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, as I point to myself. So one of the things that I'm noticing in my life is as I change, my inner state becomes more aligned, more peaceful, more steady, more deeply rooted. My relationships are changing.
And not always the way you
Not
thought.
always in comfortable ways, right? Because my old adaptation of people-pleasing, I would kind of like do this fawning thing where other people's needs were prioritized, and I wouldn't even really think about what I wanted. I would just make sure that people around me were okay. That came from a survival, like that. It worked to a certain stage in my life. That worked, and it's no longer working. And so as I change internally, I'm seeing that external discomfort that other people are having.
And you're also seeing external comfort.
Right. So there's other people who are really loving the change and really like stepping into sync with me in ways that we've never done before.
Right.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it's Monique talks about, hopefully this will be in one of her future books, but she talks a little bit about that attachment bond, right? And how important it is for us to connect with our caregivers. She talks a little bit about that in The How, which is the book that's available on Amazon, which we highly recommend you look into. The audio version will be out very soon as well. So we have these attachment relationships, and other people have talked about this as well. When that relationship is threatened, it's like we will throw ourselves away.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rather than risk losing our loved ones.
Right. That's pretty serious, right? We talk about that. Wow.
Have you ever done that? Like just
absolutely.
Put your squashed your dreams, or just put yourself to the side.
And kind of maybe what's even more and maybe this lands with somebody who's listening, where you give yourself up 100 times a day a little bit.
Death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah. Now, the actual quote is death by 1,000 cuts, but because we have a reader here...
Oh, is it? I always thought it was paper cuts.
No, the Romans weren't really that. Because papyrus, really hard to cut yourself with papyrus.
All these years I thought it was paper cuts.
No, death by 1,000 cuts. But anyways, moving on.
Just blew my mind.
So, in that is that, and this and the problem is on the other side, we've weaponized this. So there's kind of the two things. Either I'm doing what somebody else wants to please them, or I'm just going to do my own thing.
And I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I don't give a shit what anybody else thinks. I'm going to go to the beach today, no matter what. And both of those things
are out of balance.
They're out of balance.
Yeah.
Right. So what we're saying is, is there?
Explain why that second one is out of balance from our lens of alignment.
Because it's still working out of a contracted state of control.
So if somebody doesn't know what a contracted state is, how would you describe it to them?
A contracted state is a state of being that I've learned that its end goal is to keep me safe. In that contracted state, and in the book, Monique talks about the 6 major ones.
The
right? Adaptations, right?
Yeah.
But in that contracted state, if I say I'm angry while I push the person away from me, that's threatening me.
Right.
Or I control them with actions of love. You know what I mean? But they're all designed to protect me.
So here's the rub.
Oh, here comes the rub, not the paper cut.
Most of us are taught, and our society actually teaches us
every day,
that we want to stay safe.
Yes.
Why would you not want that? Why would you not want to stay safe?
Well, I know this, that staying safe in my experience has led to kind of chronic compliance. Right? Where it's like I'm always doing these different adaptations to keep myself safe, and I keep getting the same results.
Mm-hmm. So safety. So what if the goal of life was not safety?
What if it was experience?
And what if there was a possibility for expansion beyond what you feel is safe? And right. this is that paradigm shift,
yeah.
Right? Where we're actually looking at what it means to have a human experience, and that what if we are more than just social mammals that
right.
are trying to eat and sleep and have shelter and the things we started with, right? Like trying to stay warm in the winter day.
Right. So what we're saying is maybe in this life, if we had a different framework, right, a different understanding of why we're here to start with, that could be the paradigm shift. We could talk about, okay, what is it?
So why are we here?
Why are we here, right?
And we're arguing that we're actually here to have experiences,
right? Not
necessarily good experiences or bad experiences.
They're just experiences,
things that happen. There's this that story, right, about the farmer. There's like a Chinese farmer, and then I'll probably mess it up, but I remember hearing this story.
I like to. Okay, so
I'll hopefully not do a too terrible job. So there's this farmer, and there's a war that's happening, and they're collecting all the young men to gather them up to go to war, right? And so this farmer has a son, and so he doesn't really know the war is going to be happening, but his son gets kicked by a horse and breaks his leg, right? So then the farmer says, "Oh, what a terrible thing! You've broken your leg. Now you can't help with the farm." Right?
You got all this extra work to do.
And so he's frustrated about that. And then the army comes to recruit, and they pass over his son because he has a broken leg. So then the farmer says, "Oh, what a wonderful thing! You broke your leg, so now you don't have to go to war." And the story continues like that, right? Wonderful, terrible, wonderful, terrible. Judgment. And you can't really, there's really no way of knowing if something is a wonderful thing or a terrible thing in the moment.
Right.
It's often when we look back to the whole story, 5 or 10 years later, that we're like, oh,
that's why
that terrible thing that seemed like a terrible thing at the time. Right. So if we take that concept that I just shared and put it beside change happens in the present moment, how would you connect those two things?
Well, I think as Eckhart Tolle and other people have done, we're one of the only beings, as I know of, that never lives where we actually are. Because we frame everything in looking back or looking forward. But we only ever are in the present moment. And as soon as I've said that, it's already gone by. Like it's happening all of the time. So if we can learn to step into the present moment, and we have a way to do that, now I have the threshold of understanding that I never had before.
So the stepping into the present moment through the presence protocol, which is one of the tools that we teach, people can learn to do that predictably and repeat that process. Because we've all had that experience.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We've all been in flow in the present moment. I was playing with our cat yesterday. I have a cat, a new little kitten. And we really love dogs. So we're learning how to be with a cat who's different than a dog. But my daughter's knitted her this little bumblebee. And when you throw it, she goes and fetches it, brings it back. Yeah. But she plays different than a dog. Because she's not trying to
please you.
Yeah, she's not...
Like, I'll do this until I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So she'll go catch the bumblebee, then she'll swat it around a little bit, and she'll do a little something, and then maybe pick it up and bring it back or not. And being with her, like what the experience I had of that playing with her was recognizing that I had to be so present in the moment. I couldn't anticipate what she was going to do. I just have to allow whatever she's going to do and then adjust myself. Right?
Different,
so very different than having a dog that has that predictable, reliable, and that kind of little bit of people pleasing. That's
why we like dogs.
I love dogs.
Yeah. So what we're saying is in that present moment, here's an interesting thing that I really deeply believe in my heart is your mind has no ability to visit that present moment. It doesn't
because the mind likes to predict and remember. That's how it's designed.
I mean, that's what your studies have taught you?
Yes, psychology is about remembering and predicting. Actually, a lot of therapy, unfortunately, is about remembering and predicting, which is not about being in the present moment.
Right. And in that present moment is a gateway into saying, okay, there's another place here that I can go, which we would call into your consciousness, right? Into the and remembering who I was and who I've always been.
Can you connect that back to the clothing?
You're really testing me today.
Because I'm seeing all these so sometimes when we work together, I have these visuals that happen in my mind and they don't make any logical sense. So then I say it out loud and Texas, can you explain this? Because I'm seeing a thread between what we're talking about now and the clothing survival example that you gave at the beginning.
Right. Well, because they're not that distant from each other.
Okay.
It's a little slower process, but if you live close to nature is what you watch. And it makes the decisions for you. Right? There's no point.
And so you either attune to nature
or you die.
Or you die. Oh, okay. That's the alternative. Right.
Got it. And in my family, we've had people die because for a moment they got out of sync. Tried to cross a river that was a little too high. These types of things that happen. They happen.
Right.
And we've talked lots on other podcasts about my dad, telling me 1,000, 100,000 times probably, be in the moment. Because when you pick up an axe or a power saw when you're in the bush, you better be thinking about what you're doing. Because if you hurt yourself, nobody's going to dial 911 and an ambulance is going to come pick you up and fix you.
No.
You will bleed to death there.
Right there.
Well,
and I wonder that's why so many people enjoy gardening or camping or kind of being outside in nature without an agenda.
Yeah.
Because it's just... you're just kind of connected in a way that our ancestors were.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So if that's the case, then I have more of a chance to be present. So that's kind of what we're saying is that but we don't need to be in nature to be present.
Right.
Because presence happens inside of us.
Right. Not necessarily based on our outer environment.
Not at all based on our... Right? So this is why this is really cool, because we can take these tools and we can use them in our everyday to be present.
So even if I live in a city, or even if I'm incarcerated, right? Yeah. I don't need to necessarily be in the outer environment to have that inner state of steadiness and leaning into change.
And in fact, what we're learning is that the more we engage with our consciousness, we recognize the strength that's there to take us through our everyday and find that extraordinary in the ordinary.
Which is different than the way a lot of kind of spiritual communities or consciousness work, I think about psychedelics and other work like that.
Which work? Cool.
And it's important work, but I think what can be missing in those spaces is the the integration piece, bringing it back to my day-to-day life, right? Not having this, like, yes, I maybe have a peak experience or have this wow moment at some sort of an event,
right?
But then how do I incorporate that back into when I'm washing the dishes and frustrated because my tap is, leaking or whatever little thing, right? Whatever little household normal things that we all go through. How do I not let that throw me off? Or all the hundreds of little cuts.
Yeah, or in fact, being able to look at that tap that's dripping and see it as something that's trying to show you a resistance that you have. And when you let go of that, there's actually, I'm just experiencing this.
Yeah, right? I remember reading about that in Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, and being it felt like such a big concept.
Right, so like the leap.
The leap, right, of going from evaluating and judging the moment to simply observing it and being present.
Right, and I think, because I worked with that book, as you know, a long time, and been doing this for a bit. The reason that Monique wrote a lot of the stuff that she wrote in the How is because I like the idea of that, but how do I do it consistently? That's the name why she titled the book that.
The How.
Because if this is real, and this is one of the things that when we started to work together, I said, if this is real, it has to be predictable. It has to work everywhere. It has to work everywhere, or we don't want it.
Right.
And what we're finding is this does help. And that present moment stuff, then we're not on the hunt for healing.
Ooh, say more.
Because there's so much validation, which is good, that's been given to the fact that there are mental health issues and we have people who struggle. Mm-hmm. But the answer is not to look at the struggle. Which
is unfortunately how the mainstream mental health community is designed.
Right.
Like the professional community that's training in how to help people.
Right.
Their training is about looking at the struggle.
Right.
And identifying the struggle.
And doing behavior modification too, and all of those things.
Right, but that inner shift, we're not as good as understanding how to do that. And when you look at the presence protocol, there's kind of 4 components to it, right? Or like steps kind of. They're not really steps, but like there's a process that you go through. And the first thing that we do is we focus, right? We like stop and like actually pay attention. Just like focus on what's happening.
Not judge it.
Just get here. And then observe what's happening. And then there's through a breath, through a somatic experience, through a breath experience, we go through a release. And then we notice what's up, right? And just that slowing down and doing the simple, very, very simple protocol can change people's nervous systems. It has changed their brain patterning, change how they're responding and relating to other people. Mm-hmm. But it's not like you do this once and it's going to be done, right? It's like that ongoing, constant, intentional practice of using the tool.
Right.
In one of Monique's videos, which we have on YouTube, she talks about what is the presence protocol. And if you haven't watched that yet, I would highly recommend. It's just a short one, like under 10 minutes, where she actually takes people through like what are the components of the presence protocol
and why they work,
and
the science behind it.
Yeah, and if you want to learn it like kind of deeper dive, again, go check out the book, and it's all kind of laid out there of how to do it.
So I guess what I'd like to say, kind of as we wrap up here, is that if you have tried a lot of things, and are just thinking, man, there's got to be a bit more here. Mm-hmm. Because I think intuitively we all know this can't be all there is. Mm-hmm. Right? Maybe,
or something worked, like, some external thing that you did, it worked for a while.
Yes.
And then now it stopped working. Or you had that wow, but then you got back into your regular life and that wow isn't there anymore. Like if you're just feeling that longing and that seeking and that searching, and you're ready to have some answers that are not very glamorous. I'll be honest, it's not very glamorous. No, it's very basic and very grounded. Yes. Not very like, woo, look at this amazing thing. No, it's just very simple and very basic and down to earth. And but it works.
And I think that is why it works. Because if we give the mind a lot to work with, it will create a whole bunch more problems. And we're saying, could you just take a back seat here for a minute and let me figure out what I've always known.
And then the mind eventually becomes a supporter and a helper to our consciousness, to our intuitive mind, right? To our higher self that's actually leading the way. And then the cognitive mind, the problem-solving rational mind, follows rather than that trying to be in charge and be the boss.
It makes a great support system. It makes a terrible boss.
Yes.
Yeah. So if this piques your interest, grab a copy of The How. Mm-hmm. That's a great place to start. I'll let you know right up front, it's a big read.
Mm-hmm. It'll slow bites, and it's like a buffet. Like you got to slowly work your way through it. Yeah. You can't get through it in one sitting. Well, though it's a really interesting read and really engaging. But the concepts are big, so you'll be reading it and you'll kind of be digesting these concepts as you work through it. And
keep tuning back in as we we try to show up just as we are today. We just kind of wandered around until we got where we thought we should go. But this idea that there's a place to go is something else we started. This whole experience of being a human, it's just moving into change and then moving into more change. And there's never an arrival.
Destination, right?
Right.
Like, you said this a few weeks ago, right? The destination
is change. So if that rings... I'd like to have some change in my life, and you sort of know, but why? I hear this a lot, but why bother? Because I'm just going to end up in a different place and just as stuck. No,
because life feels different from the inside.
Yeah,
it really does. So check out the other podcast episodes, YouTube channel. Join our newsletter if you want to kind of get that weekly touch point from us.
Yeah,
and we'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot. Bye.